Hey, thanks for clicking on my video. If this video helps you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It is greatly appreciated and it really helps. Let's get to the video. Let's talk about angle of elevation. So we have angle of elevation, we have angle of depression. And so in this diagram I have depicted here, we can kind of understand the difference between the two. So let's say that you're standing on the road somewhere, you're looking up at a tall building, and so the angle that is formed from your eye level or the ground to the top of the building, that would be considered the angle of elevation. And so essentially, if we were able to track a line, much like the line that we see right here that I'm highlighting in yellow, all the way up to the top of the building, and then we have a line that's basically if the light maybe like reflected off the building, and it created this line that's parallel to our line of sight, then we also have an angle of depression that's formed, and that's going to be the same exact angle as our angle of elevation because they would be considered alternate interior angles, right? So we can use this information, this idea of angle of elevation, to help us figure out maybe heights, like in this case a building, height of a building, or if we're thinking about like maybe like a parasailing type of problem where somebody is attached to a boat and they are up in the air, so we could find the distance from how high they are off the water, the distance of the length of the rope, how far the parasailing person is, how long the rope is that's holding them up out of the water, so on and so forth. So we're going to look at one example in this video. It says that our eye level is 5 feet above the ground, and we are standing 246 feet away from a building. We estimate the angle of elevation to the top of the building to be 80 degrees. Approximately, what is the height of the building? So I'm going to try and draw us a picture here. It's probably not going to be exactly to scale, but we can still use the information in the picture to help us solve the problem. All right, so let's say we are standing right here, and our eye level is 5 feet above the ground. So let's say this is my eye level right here. So we know this distance right here is 5 feet, and this would be the ground, okay, G for ground. All right, so we're standing 246 feet away from a building. So let's say the length of this would be 246 feet, and we estimate the angle of elevation to the top of the building to be 80 degrees. Now, I'm going to draw my building here. And I want this to be a right triangle. And so my 80 degree angle of elevation is not going to be exact. It's not going to look very appropriate for the angle that it should be. So let me move this over here, 246 degrees. And so it's telling me that this angle is 80 degrees, right? Obviously, I know that that looks not like 80 degrees, but for the purposes of this problem, let's say that's 80 degrees, okay? So essentially, we are trying to find this distance right here. And then we got to keep into account that we're actually calculating this with our eye level 5 feet above the ground. So once we figure out our final answer, we'll just add 5 to it to make sure we get the actual height of the building. All right, so now we want to know this, and notice that we have an 80 degree opposite and we have an adjacent, so that would be tangent, right? So we're going to say tangent of 80 is equal to x over 246. So I'm going to bring my calculator onto the screen. Remember, we want to make sure our calculator is in degree mode. If yours is in radians, we need to click on mode, and we need to go down. Here is radian. We want to go over to degree, and we want to hit enter, and make sure degree is highlighted. It should change to degree at the top of the screen there. And we can just hit clear to go back to our screen. So now I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 246. And in my calculator, I can type in 246 times tangent of 80. So now we hit enter. And we're going to get x is equal to 1,395, 0.135, let's just say approximately 1,395, and we're talking about feet. And now we know we need to add our 5 feet from our eye level to the ground. And so this is going to tell me that the approximate height is 1,400 feet. Okay, so that's how we could use angle of elevation to help us calculate height of a building or some other structure in a real world scenario.